Hi, are you doing anything? I don't know about you, but they were busy at Triton. This year, 3 brand new routers have been introduced. The first one is already in the Czech Republic, sold by uni-max, and I hope that the other 2 will reach us in time. The first one is a small combined machine, which I will introduce to you shortly. The other 2 are large routers with a power of 2400W. One is set to be the successor to the legendary model TRA001, so it will have the serial number 002, and the second one is essentially supposed to be a successor as well, but to a model that is popular or was popular mainly in the United States, which was from the brand Port Cable. I'm quite curious about that too. It has a solid, robust base, and a large motor is placed into it. But let's focus on this one now. It comes in a robust case with metal latches, and with the normal hinges, where there is also a metal pin, so you can open it 1,000 times and it won't break. So, and here inside is the beauty. It will definitely remind someone of the already legendary combination router that I have had in my workshop for several years. Specifically the Makita RT0700C. Since it is the only combined machine I have experience with, I will use it as a bit of a reference. I made a list like this, from which it is clear that about half of the things I prefer on the Triton, and the other half I would say are better resolved on the Makita. Case. When I bought the Makita, I think it could be purchased separately or in a system case. I got it in that box, and inside there is just some kind of textile organizer, or whatever you want to call it, and everything is kind of packed in there. I really don't like that. I find it quite impractical. So, if I could choose, I would prefer a system case, but with some solid interior, with a proper insert, or just a simple one-purpose case like this. Another thing is the price. Back then, that combo was definitely more expensive than what the Triton costs today, but I would say that the accessories were a bit more abundant, so I would say that in terms of price, it might be comparable. By the way, you can still get this router, even in blue, from uni-max. What does the combined machine actually mean? Well, that means you have a motor unit, several bases, and you can swap them around. Let's take a look at the Triton now. It is currently in the so-called the plunge base, and when I loosen this here, I can pull out the motor unit and place it right into this type of trimming or edge base. Let's move on. Anti-restart function. I really like that about the Triton. I miss it a lot in the Makita. I don't know if the newer products have it, but this one doesn't, and it always terrifies me. I check it several times when I plug it in to make sure I don't have it turned on, so it doesn't just start running. It's all sorted out here. Even if you have it turned on and plug the fork into the socket, nothing will happen. It will have to be turned off and then turned back on before it starts up. So you have it under control, and that is really a very good feature that I miss in the Makita RT0700C. On paper, the Triton is stronger, with a motor power of 880W, while the Makita has 710W. As you can clearly see in the case, there is a standard parallel stop that fits into the base of the router. The Makita doesn't come with basic equipment, but you can buy it separately. By the way, this one from Triton fits there as well. There, it is designed a little differently. It uses an adapter so that a parallel stop can be used for both the plunge base and the trim router. While this is, as I said, a standard that fits various machines, it has one disadvantage. You cannot use it with the trim router base. Partially, its function is taken over by this stop, which you also know from that model where the bearing is. So with this, you can solve either the copying bearing or use it as a parallel stop when you want to create, for example, a groove. Let's move on to the other advantages of Triton. Micro adjustment knob. Clearly, that's probably the biggest plus of this combination. Specifically, with the plunge base, you have height adjustment not only in the traditional way by simply pressing down, but also micro adjustment using this wheel here. Additionally, as is customary with Triton, there is a key included so that you can control it from above when you place it in a router table. Even a relatively small router can be transformed into a stationary router by simply placing it into a board. The fastening depends on you. You can either buy a pre-drilled board that is specifically made for this type, or you can, of course, do it yourself. I used to use the Makita RT0700C from underneath, and that adjustment is, of course, nowhere near as convenient or precise as with the Triton with the knob, revolving stop. Here with this Triton, there are 4 different heights and they are graduated in 5mm increments, and you can't adjust it at all. With the Makita, there are 3 positions, and you can fine-tune them. Honestly, I have only used that adjustment once, and since then I have kept it set the same way. However, I understand that in some serial production, it is useful to be able to set the exact mutual ratio so that one plunge is at a certain depth and the other is at a precisely defined 2nd or 3rd depth. This isn't possible here, but I think that for most regular users, this is more convenient. You have 4 different positions there, and you know that it is always exactly a 5mm adjustment up or down. Another aspect where Triton is better than Makita is the removal of the collets, as they are supported by a spring in the hollow shaft and can be easily taken out. Essentially, they pop out on their own. For those of you who have the Makita, you can confirm that sometimes it can be a bit of a problem to remove the collets. The Makita has a 6K8, and here you have a 6.35mm, which is a 1/4 inch, and an 8mm collet. Regarding the 1/4 inch, because I know that many of you dislike imperial units. The company that currently owns the Triton brand is British, so they import tools with a 1/4 inch shank through uni-max, and they are often at a really great price. So I happened to get a 1/4 inch collet for my big TRA-001 as well, because I can save on tools again. I don't know if a 6mm collet will be available in the future, but I don't completely rule it out. In any case, I did try a 6mm shank here with a 1/4 inch touch. It seems completely fine at first. It doesn't wobble or slide out, but then when you turn it on, you can see that it's a little off. So I definitely wouldn't try it or work with it. And you know what I found out? That the 6mm collet from Makita fits in there. So it's completely fine. You can get it as a spare part here for just a few bucks, in my opinion. And you can also use 6mm shank routers in Triton. Let's take a look inside the case that's here. As I mentioned, there is the replacement collet for 8mm, and there is also an Allen key for adjusting the parallel stop, because you can set it up this way or the other way around and use it to stop against something in this manner. And then, of course, there is also a key for tightening the collet. And just to make sure I don't forget, this is an adapter specifically for British sockets. It will come to you with the adapter installed, so keep that in mind. You will need to take it apart. And underneath it lies the European, or if you prefer, Czech base. Now it's time for those so-called disadvantages, but we will combine it with a comparison to the Makita. I would say that securing the motor into the individual bases is somewhat less elegant, because while the Makita uses a quick release system with this eccentric here, where you simply open it and take it out. At Triton, this is resolved using a screw that fits into this collet hole. Insert the base and screw it in. The workpiece is quite deep, so you need to screw a lot, about 4 to 5 turns. It needs to be tightened properly so that there is really no play. The router arrived dry, which means it was quite stiff because these columns were completely dry. They probably have bronze bushings, so I assumed that over time it would wear in and operate smoothly, but I still applied a bit of Teflon lubricant, and now it works much better. I like that there is a 3-meter rubber cable here, but because I'm a bit of a nitpicker, I think it's a shame that it goes to this side where the micro adjustment is. You can still access it, but the cable does get in the way a little bit. I wouldn't mind at all if it went to this side. At least I would have the switch facing me, but it doesn't work that way because the base is designed for the locking button. But it occurred to me that since there are 4 screws symmetrically at the bottom, similar to an angle grinder, if they were loosened, this bottom part might be able to be rotated 90 degrees, and then I would have it exactly how I want it. Just, of course, be careful about the warranty. Both routers have a speed control dial ranging from 1 to 6, and the values differ slightly. For the Makita, if I'm not mistaken, the prices range from 10 to 30,000, while here they are approximately from 11.5 to 130,000. So the range is the same, it's just that with the Triton, it's shifted upwards by about 1,000 RPM. The manufacturer states that you can clamp a tool with a diameter of up to 30 millimeters into this router, This refers to the working diameter, not the shank diameter, which is quite nice. The problem is that when you clamp it like this into the motor, which is the most comfortable position, and then you want to push it inside, you're out of luck because the opening here has a diameter of only 25 millimeters. Well, it's not completely thought out. Although on the other hand, how often will you be using this small router with such a large tool? However, I don't know why there couldn't be a larger hole here, at least with a diameter of 30 millimeters. So let's talk about Triton's biggest weakness, which in my opinion is this trimming base. First of all, it doesn't have any dust extraction at all. You might think so, but when I'm just trimming edges, that's not much material. You're right. However, with the Makita, it is precisely resolved, so I have almost no mess, which is why I really appreciate the dust extraction here. It's a pity that it isn't available. And the second thing is the shape and size, because when you put the motor in it, I really don't envision a one-handed edge router like this. I would say that the Makita is definitely more comfortable in hand, so I take it that it's an option to still use the motor, but I will primarily be using it in the plunge base. I believe you already have all the information you need to make an informed decision about whether to choose this router from Triton or not. I would summarize it by saying that if you primarily want to use the plunge base, or use it in a router table, then the Triton is definitely more suitable for that than the Makita. However, if you primarily want to use that edge router, then you must admit that this one is definitely more ergonomic and easier to handle. However, it's nice that the Triton has the second base, and we hope that over time the range of bases will expand. You can find the link to the Triton router as usual in the description below the video. Thank you for watching, take care, and do something.